Right, I've all said it, haven't we? But there is seriously never a dull moment as a Chelsea fan, is there? Because the news coming out of Stamford Bridge this week is that Chelsea are willing to let go of Djordje Petrovic this summer. We got to speak about this one, man. But people, before we do all that, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here at the end of the video, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please hit that subscribe button. I've been saying it, video in, video out. We are approaching the Premier League season, and my personal goal that I've set myself is to reach 100k before the start of the season. So I think I've got about 96,000 subscribers at the minute. It's going to take a big push, but I'm going to do my best, and I need you lot to as well. So please hit the subscribe button right now. Let's speak about the Petrovic situation. So according to the Daily Telegraph, Enzo Maresca prefers Sanchez for the role of starting goalkeeper. The 26-year-old Spaniard is believed to be more suited to Maresca's style, as he has proven his capability to play out from the back in training. While Sanchez is seen as the front runner, Chelsea acknowledged that the need for another goalkeeper with a similar skill set to ensure a seamless transition if any changes are necessary. Although Petrovic is highly rated by the club, there are concerns about the disparity between his abilities and those of Sanchez's. At the moment, it remains unclear whether Chelsea would be willing to let Petrovic leave on a loan or whether it would be for a permanent deal. Now, I'd say my initial reaction to this one was probably the same as yours, which is one of confusion. A couple of reasons why. Firstly, obviously Sanchez has probably had way more of a chance to be able to show his worth to Enzo Maresca on the training ground. Robert Sanchez didn't go to the Euros. Petrovic did, and whether or not he was starting in goal or not, he was involved in Serbia's Euro campaign all the way until their last game. That was on the 25th of June. Say they then fly back from Germany on the 27th of June, being that he's played more or less all season for Chelsea and then gone to the Euros. He's going to go off on holiday, whether that be a week, 10 days, something like that. So obviously, Robert Sanchez is going to have been on the training ground, I'm thinking, longer than Petrovic, and therefore would have somewhat of an unfair advantage to be able to prove his worth to new boss Enzo Maresca than Petrovic has been able to. Number two, training is training and playing is playing. So despite what you do in training being important, does Maresca not actually need to see these two guys in pre-season to have a better judgment of who is the better option out of the two? So to use a boxing analogy, there's things that I can do in the gym, there's moves that I can pull off in sparring that would be very, very hard for me to replicate and pull off in an actual fight, because in sparring, there's not that added pressure, you know, there's not thousands of people in the arena, there's not, you know, millions of people watching on TV or YouTube potentially. So behind closed doors in the gym, when the pressure's off, it may be easier for me to pull off some of these moves. But on the night, on an actual fight, the pressure might mount and it might be a lot harder for me to actually do some of the things that I'm able to do in the gym. So I've got no doubt that Sanchez may have been pulling some, you know, line-splitting balls through the defenders and starting attacks in training and looking real quality. But most of the time, and I will say most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, when we saw him attempt to do that last season, I mean, we didn't really see it. He wasn't very good at doing that, I didn't think that Sanchez was this ball-playing goalkeeper that we were being sold the vision to when he was brought in from Brighton. I'm not saying that Petrovic was either, by the way, but what I am saying is that I do think that Petrovic understood his role and his game a lot better last season than Robert Sanchez did, and therefore that's why you didn't see those sort of mistakes all that often from Petrovic. But what I did need to do here is actually delve in to some of the stats, and upon doing so, I was actually pretty surprised, and I think some of you guys might be too. So Petrovic's overall passing accuracy was 78.8%. That is broken down into 100% success rate short passing, 99.1% success rate medium passing, 42.6% long passing. Now Robert Sanchez's passing accuracy was 82.1%, so just over 3% more successful in overall passing than Petrovic, and that's broken down into 99.3% short passing, 99.7% medium passing, and 53.1% long passing. So long passing is the immediate area where you can definitively say, okay, Sanchez is statistically ahead of Petrovic in that metric. As well as that though, per 90 minutes, Sanchez makes 0.13 shots creating actions, which is over twice that of Petrovic's 0.5. So when you read those stats, you probably think, okay, even in maybe underwhelming first season at Chelsea Football Club where Sanchez didn't really do what was advertised on the tin when he was brought in, he did still have better ball playing abilities than Petrovic did, especially when it came to getting the ball up the pitch and retaining possession when you get that ball up the pitch, especially when it comes to maybe starting attacks. Now, both men average conceding 1.43 goals per 90 minutes, and at 69.3, Petrovic's save percentage was just 0.3 better than Sanchez's at 69%. They also had roughly the same clean sheet percentage per 90 at 23.3%. So those stats read close, but when you think about Enzo Maresca's ball playing, possession retaining team, which is what we're hearing that he wants, maybe you would look at those stats and say that Robert Sanchez could then be a better fit for Enzo Maresca. And here's the funny thing that will surprise you, because errors that led to goals, it was Petrovic who actually made more with 2, whereas Sanchez only making 1. But I do believe that sometimes in football, you need to go on the eye test. And I was watching Sanchez every single minute he played for Chelsea Football Club last season, a lot of which I was in the stands for. And I believe, and I think you lot will too, that Petrovic was much better. Because after Petrovic came in, looked like a safe pair of hands, performed heroics in the League Cup, penalty shootout winner that he won us, by the way, against Newcastle, I just felt like there was a real sturdiness installed into that Chelsea backline. And sat in the stands, there wasn't that head in my hands, stomach in my mouth sort of moment when the ball went back to Petrovic that I often felt like I had, and the rest of the crowd at Stamford Bridge had, when the ball went back to Sanchez. And that feeling of safety is probably one of the most important things of a goalkeeper, isn't it? Hence the phrase, a safe pair of hands. And I am not sure that a safe pair of hands, or feet, by the way, is exactly how we could have described Robert Sanchez last season. I remember him making bad mistakes against Liverpool, Brentford, Brighton, Arsenal. That one led to a goal. Do you remember when Declan Rice scored? I was at Craven Cottage when he literally passed the ball from 5 yards out to a Fulham player. And I'm not saying that Petrovic didn't make any mistakes either. I was at Stamford Bridge for the game against Burnley when he made a mistake. You know, he had a bad match against Arsenal. But what no one can deny is, on the most part, Petrovic was a safer pair of hands and a safer pair of feet than Robert Sanchez was. And do you know what the harsh truth is? Maybe neither are the elite goalkeeper that are going to take us to the next level. But for the here and now, I think we need to be sticking with Petrovic, the younger man who significantly contributed towards a way better Chelsea side in the second half of last season. And before you guys point it out, no, I am not forgetting some of the better moments that Robert Sanchez had last season. The penalty save at Old Trafford, the save against Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge, that could have won save of the season. I can't even remember whether it did or not. And, you know, we saw at Brighton that he is a decent keeper before he was replaced by Jason Steele. He was solid. In fact, solid is probably an understatement. I thought he was really, really good. But ultimately, he was replaced in the end. And there was nothing that Petrovic did last season that I think warrants him losing his spot to Robert Sanchez, let alone being moved on by the club. I even remember when Robert Sanchez did come back in and was given somewhat of a sympathy start against Enzo Maresca's Leicester, of all people, last season. Let's be honest, he had an absolute stinker, didn't he? He was partially at fault for Disasi's own goal, which you would say was more Disasi's misplaced and overhit pass, but had Sanchez have had better positioning, it never goes in. He gave away the ball a few times, nearly handing Patson Daka a goal in the process once when he did that. So what he showed there was when he came back into the team, he was still looking just as shaky as when he was displaced. Now, I'm buzzing about Maresca, to be fair. I want that on record. I'm already loving what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. But if this isn't a decision that has come from above his head, and this is truly the man himself, Enzo Maresca's decision, I've got to be honest, I am a bit worried, man. And listen, this could be one of the first of many Maresca masterstrokes. I'm very aware of that. Bringing back a player who the fan base had wrote off a little bit like Cucurella, only for us to see the brilliance of Robert Sanchez next season. And he is this ball-playing goalkeeper who turns defence into attack, splits the lines with passes, spreads balls, gets assists or whatever you want to call it, and starts Chelsea really attacking from the back as soon as the ball goes back to him. And if that does happen, then Enzo Maresca will then prove why he is the manager of Chelsea Football Club and I am just a YouTuber who occasionally gets punched in the face for a living. But if Sanchez starts and is the same Sanchez that we saw last season, Petrovic has moved on. All of a sudden, we've got a want-away goalkeeper in Kepa on the bench who would rather go to Real Madrid and be fucking 54th choice than even stay and fight for his place at Chelsea. Or we're relying on a young, unproven Slanina or something like that. Oh, mate. It just sounds like a nightmare scenario, doesn't it? And I suppose the alternative is that we really roll the dice and invest in addressing that exact position and go out and buy a high-profile name. But with a high-profile goalkeeper will come a high-profile price. And look what happened last time we spent big on a goalkeeper in Kepa Arrizabalaga. I really don't know, man. I hope that Enzo Maresca, if this is his choice, changes his mind on this one. Surely he's going to get to see Robert Sanchez and Djordje Petrovic in training and then maybe start to realise that, okay, maybe Petrovic doesn't attempt the same balls that Robert Sanchez does, and maybe Robert Sanchez might stay a little bit calmer under pressure in training, but then maybe he will see that Petrovic did have sturdiness, reassurance, composure, and did install a lot more belief in the back line in front of him. I will not be proven wrong here. I think that the four defenders, whoever it was on the pitch at that time, felt a lot safer with Djordje Petrovic behind them than they did with Robert Sanchez. And now listen, it is my job almost now as a YouTuber to be able to give my opinion on these things. That does not mean that I am not going to be supporting Robert Sanchez. That does not mean I'm not going to be singing his name if he really starts to pull up trumps and starts to put in stellar performances for Chelsea next season. But off the back of what I saw in the first season, I really do think this could be a big mistake. Now, you could be looking at this and you could think, you thought the same about Cucurella and now you're an absolute Cucurella fanboy, and you would be right. However, we weren't then looking at selling Ben Chilwell when we bought Cucurella in. Do you know what I mean? So now Cucurella's proven himself a little bit different. What I'm saying is, I don't think we should be looking at loaning out or selling Petrovic when Sanchez has not proven himself and when we haven't got another alternative option there. Mamashvili? Is it Mamashvili? He's one that, we could potentially go for, but I don't know, man. It's a lot of players to be gelling together again at the start of this season. We were gelling together a lot of players last season. Some of those players, like Christopher Nkunku, spent more or less the whole season out injured, so he's still going to have to come back and to get to know his teammates' style of play on the pitch a little bit more. We've got Dewsbury Hall coming in. We've got a few players that are still yet to be signed, and I don't know whether the goalkeeping position is that much of a priority to go out and address this second right now. But we can't move Petrovic on and just have Sanchez there. Surely then we're going to need someone like Kepa on the bench, but you don't want to be, I don't know. I'm really baffled by this one, I put it out on my Instagram when the news broke, and I just had the sort of mind-blown emoji, and the response I got from you lot was really, really significant. A lot of you guys feel really strongly about this one, so I want you to, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Have I gone too hard on Robert Sanchez here? I know he did have some good performances for Chelsea. I know he did have some good matches. And even I argued at times on the kickoff that ultimately you're always more likely to remember an absolute blunder, which, he gave us a couple to remember, than you are to remember a really good save, or maybe a quieter performance, which obviously goes under the radar, and there's a reason it's quieter, because you've been good. But I don't know. For me, Petrovic is the better keeper, and I just think it's a bit mindless to be selling him at this point. And if we had brought Petrovic in for 15 million and now his worth was 70, 80 million or something like that, and Maresca had gone to the board and said, you know what? You might as well get rid of him and, cash in profit on him, because I'm not going to use him anyway. then maybe that would make some sort of sense. But there's always just a gut feeling for me with Chelsea this isn't the case. So I really don't know. Listen, I'm back in the studio with the big dog, Djordje Veste, on Tuesday, I think. Maybe even Wednesday it could be. It might be Wednesday, I think it is actually. So what we'll do is we will drop a preview on Wednesday for the Wrexham game. Absolutely buzzing for it. Is anyone else waking up at 3 in the morning to watch it? 4 in the morning? I know I'm going to be. We're then playing again 2-3 days later. So the previews, the reviews, they're all going to be coming back, and I am absolutely buzzing for it. And there is only one place to catch all of that. Well, there's not only one place, there's loads of places. There's Djordje Veste's channel, there's George Benson, Eunice, Yannick, there's loads of us Chelsea creators. See, I'm shouting them all out here. But definitely subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be banging out the content, working really hard for you guys. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you all in the next one.